Hello, 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 beautiful friends. Dr. Yaz here. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Me? I'm having a great week. My kids just went back to school, so I have way more free time in my hands. But it brought me to the point of this podcast today. Today, we're talking about 6 healthy sweeteners that are diabetic substitutes for sugar. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this topic up today is because I get asked about it all the time in my office. And part of the reason I'm bringing it up right now is that last week I was getting my kids ready for school and, I had work. Then I took them to back to school shopping and kind of had a long day. And, God bless my staff. They're always trying to order foods that they know I want for lunch when we order in lunch. And they know I like to keep it pretty healthy. And when I say healthy, I mean nutrient dense. Usually for me, lunch is pretty boring. It's a salad, some type of protein and dressing. But this week I was really running on fumes because I was trying to get everything back to school because my son is starting kindergarten. And, we were ordering in and I said, you know what, forget it. I ordered, maybe like an extra dose of caffeine, like iced tea. And I did. I used stevia with my drink. And I will say there's a lot of food police out when it comes to sweeteners. And I'm kind of over it. So, if you know me, on the podcast, I love talking about toxicities, eating natural, unprocessed foods as much as possible, focusing on the nutrient density. And I do believe in that. I believe 80% of the time you should be eating, nutrient dense, non-processed foods as much as possible, and 20%, maybe a little more fun. And I believe in this, especially for my diabetics, okay? So this talk is for my diabetics. This may not apply to everyone, okay? But when you're a diabetic, right, we have, insulin. It's just not working as well. So glucose, right, goes up when we eat sugar. And this is a problem. So say you go out to eat and you have a Coke or juice. Your sugar may spike. And if you're a diabetic, you've probably dealt with sugars that go crazy after something like juice or soda. And it takes all day to get that sugar down. And then you feel like you're almost like starving yourself to get your sugar back to normal. And that's miserable to deal with, okay? As a diabetic, completely miserable. Not only that, but your energy goes like up and down and all around when your sugar is going up and down. So I know the food police is out there saying, artificial sweeteners this, artificial sweeteners that, or, just eat sugar, just do this. But if you're a diabetic, that's just honestly not true. And I think the food police should sit this one out and let diabetics do what they got to do. If you're a diabetic, you know how bad sugar affects you. So if you want to use, one of these sweeteners that we're going to talk about today, I totally support that because I know as a diabetic that when my sugar's erratic, I feel like crap. And I don't want you to feel like crap. I want you to feel great because when you do feel your energy's level and the sugar's level, everything in life kind of starts to fall together very nicely. So today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and ugly about these sweeteners, and you guys can make a choice for yourselves. But I think for my diabetics, when they don't want to do sugar because they know it's going to spike them, their glucose is going to go up and they're going to feel bad after. When they want to use these sweeteners, I think it's okay. I really believe in the 80-20 rule. 80%, eating healthy, unprocessed foods, and then 20% a little bit more fun to enjoy, life. So we'll dive right on in. So like I said, today's episode is all about these sugar substitutes. So if you've been struggling to manage your sweet tooth without spiking your blood sugar, this one's for you. We're going to discuss my top healthy sweeteners for those with type 2 diabetes, the controversies around them, and why these alternatives can be helpful. Nothing beats natural, unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods for your overall health, but sometimes we need a break. So let's start talking about the elephant in the room, sugar. We know that sugar, particularly in the amounts typically consumed in the modern diet, is highly inflammatory, especially for those with type 2 diabetes. See, sugar isn't just a minor indulgence. It's a significant contributor to blood glucose spikes, insulin resistance, and systemic inflammation. And as an endocrinologist, I've seen firsthand how reducing sugar intake can dramatically improve metabolic health. But I also understand that completely eliminating sweetness from your life isn't realistic for most people. And this is where sugar substitutes can come in because they offer a way to enjoy a little bit of sweetness without severe metabolic consequences. But as all things that are good, it does come with a little bit of a price, right? Everything has a side effect. So let's dive in. So when choosing a sweetener, what I'd like you to consider is opting for sweeteners that don't cause a spike in the blood glucose level as a diabetic. Another key factor is whether the sweetener is natural or artificial, though I'll be the first one to say natural doesn't always mean safe. And finally, we need to look at the broader health implications, such as how these sweeteners affect gut health, inflammation, and long-term metabolic function. So let me emphasize this. In my opinion, natural, unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods are always the better choice. But in the context of managing diabetes and reducing inflammation, these sweeteners are absolutely helpful, okay, when used strategically. So I tell my clients, follow the 80-20 rule. Focus on whole foods 80% of the time, and use the sweeteners when you're in a pinch or looking for a way to satisfy the sweet craving without derailing your health goals. So let's discuss the top 6 sweeteners I recommend considering. And again, I want to iterate that while these are better options compared to sugar for a diabetic, they're not a free pass to consume sweets in excess. All right, so the first one's stevia. Okay, glycemic impact. Stevia has 0 glycemic index, making it a popular choice for diabetics. There's a little bit of controversy recently. See, some studies have raised concerns about its impact on the gut microbiota. And if you've been following this podcast, you know we talk about this all the time. So there's a debate of whether this can disrupt the balance of the gut bacteria, which is crucial for overall health. And you know in our previous episodes we've talked about it. Good gut health means more good bacteria than bad bacteria. So there was a study published in the Frontiers of Endocrinology in 2022, and that suggested that more research is needed to really understand the long-term effects on the gut microbiota. However, stevia remains a reliable option for managing blood sugar levels as confirmed in multiple studies, including one in diabetes care. So honestly, my take is this: use stevia when you need a sweet fix, but keep an eye on how it makes you feel. If you notice any digestive issues, it may be worth exploring other options. Another big one out there is erythritol. Erythritol also has 0 glycemic index, and it's widely used as a sugar substitute. It has a lot of controversy lately, and in 2023, in a study in Nature Medicine, they linked high levels of this to an increased risk of cardiovascular events. While the study has sparked concern, it's important to note that the findings are not yet conclusive. Despite this, other studies like those published in Nutrition Research Reviews have also confirmed erythritol's safety in terms of blood glucose control. However, as with anything, moderation is key. So honestly, this substance is usually used more in like baking, but given the emerging research, I recommend using it sparingly and stay informed as the new studies are published. I definitely don't like this one as much as stevia. The next one is monk fruit sweetener. So monk fruit sweetener has 0 glycemic index and is naturally derived. There's of course controversy. So monk fruit sweetener is relatively new on the market, which means we don't have long-term data on its safety. And some experts caution that we might not fully understand its health implications yet. There is some evidence already out there though, and in 2021, in a study of Journal of Food Science, showed no significant impact on blood glucose levels and insulin levels with this. However, in a review by Critical Reviews in Food Science and Nutrition, they emphasize the need for more long-term studies. And honestly, my take is this: monk fruit is a great option for those looking for a natural sweetener. But like all things, use it in moderation and consider it a tool in your toolbox, not a daily staple. The next one I'm going to discuss is xylitol. Xylitol has a low glycemic index, around 7, making it a much better choice than sugar. However, xylitol, known for its dental benefits, but it actually causes a lot of digestive issues when consumed in large amounts. It's also very highly toxic to pets, especially dogs, so be very careful if you have pets at home. There's been evidence about this in a study by BMC Oral Health. They highlighted its dental benefit, but also noted its gastrointestinal side effects. And in another study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, it confirmed its suitability for diabetics. My take is it's an okay option in doses like that are very, very small, but honestly, there's other ones, right? Stevia and monk fruit just really don't affect the stomach so much. So be mindful of this and definitely keep it away from your pets. The next one is kind of newer on the market, allulose, okay? So allulose has minimal impact on blood glucose levels, which is why it's gaining huge popularity for diabetics. Now, controversy, because it's new, right, the long-term effects aren't understood. And some concerns are out there about its liver metabolism and fat storage. So in 2021, in a study by Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism, they found that allulose could reduce postprandial sugar levels. However, in 2023, another article came out in the journal Nutrients, which called for more research to long-term effects, especially regarding liver health. My take is that allulose is promising, particularly for diabetics, but it's crucial, obviously, to do this in moderation and use it for an occasional treat rather than a daily go-to. The next one is coconut sugar. So coconut sugar has a lower glycemic index than regular sugar, around 35, but it's still higher than the options we've discussed, okay? So I love, telling people about this who are not diabetics, who want to use sugar in baking and cooking and aren't diabetic, so they just want something that's, natural, but they don't want, as high of a sugar spike. But for my diabetics, this will absolutely still spike you, even though it's better than regular sugar. So coconut sugar is often marketed as a healthier alternative, but it is still sugar. And some experts, argue that its health food label is misleading, and I agree with this, because it really can cause blood glucose spikes for diabetics. So the evidence is there. In 2022, in the study of Journal and Functional Foods, highlighted it as a lower glycemic index compared to regular sugar, but cautioned against overuse for those with diabetes. And I agree with this. So my take is that coconut sugar can be helpful, in certain recipes, but it's far from perfect. So definitely use it sparingly and always be mindful of your overall sugar intake. So now what I want to discuss in this section is kind of how you can incorporate this. So we've talked about the options. Let's talk about how to incorporate these sweeteners into your diet effectively. And remember, while these substitutes are better than sugar for diabetics who can't handle, glucose spikes, the key is to use it strategically. So in beverages, I love, stevia or monk fruit, maybe in your morning coffee or tea. In baking, allulose is making a big wave to be used because it mimics sugar's texture and sweetness without impacting the glycemic impact. However, that being said, monk fruit and stevia also have baking alternatives that they've made where the texture is very similar. You just have to look for the brands. They may not just be in the market. You may have to order it online. Another place you can incorporate this is smoothies. It's smoothies when they need a little bit of sweetness with a little bit of monk fruit or stevia that can sweeten your smoothie without the extra carbs. And again, this is an 80-20%, okay? So 20% of the time, maybe, put it this, and like I'll say it over and over, I follow an 80-20% rule with my clients, so focusing on whole nutrient-dense foods 80% of the time, and then using the sweetener as part of your 20%, to give you that extra pinch of sweetness when, you really need it in the recipe. See, while these sweeteners offer benefits, they're not without potential pitfalls. So like we said, the ones that have sugar alcohols like erythritol and xylitol cause digestive discomfort. And I've said it over and over again, your gut health really matters when it comes to diabetes long term. So really start with small amounts if you're going to use these. But again, I prefer the other two, monk fruit and stevia, a little bit more. Another problem I often see with these ones with sugar alcohols, I see them in Atkins products a lot, is that people eat them in bulk, right? These big, like maybe chocolate bars, that are sweetened with this. And I see the GI side effects all the time. So even though they have lower glycemic impacts, consuming them in large quantities can definitely lead to health issues. So definitely consider this only in moderation. The other thing I want you to do is also be vigilant about reading labels. See, many processed foods marketed as sugar-free or low sugar still contain hidden sugars and unhealthy additives. So definitely read your labels, okay? So basically, in summary, while natural, unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods should be prioritized, if you need something that's going to add just a little sweetness in your life, my prescription for you is go for it. If you're a diabetic, you're already doing so much to improve your health, and if you know a sugar spike is really going to affect you throughout your day, I think it's okay to use a little bit of stevia and monk fruit. That's all I have for this one. I'll see you guys in the next.